Hey, it's TDA. Welcome back to episode 13 of this Dyson Sphere Let's Play. It's our by the book Let's Play where we use blueprints to do stuff a lot faster. I built a little bit of power after last episode. Just one more ring of solar panels to bump up our power production a little bit. Why? Because I decided to do something I hadn't actually done yet, and that was spread around some more logistic vessels. Specifically, this one is our culprit that's actually taking up quite a lot of energy. Not at the moment because all the ships are underway, but when they head back, they drain our power quite a bit. As you can see, it's still charging up. The silicon is being brought in from the other planet. It's being turned into processors over here, and as you can see, we're using all the processors we're making despite thousands of silicon coming in every so often. So because of that, I figured let's just do this directly. Have the silicon be brought in directly to this ILS, and by doing so speed up our production a bit. That's also where you can notice that if you actually overdo this with the logistic vessels and drones, it will eat into your power very quickly. Alright, so let's see, what is the next thing we want to do? I already spoiled it a little bit at the start of the last episode, but this one will be about finally getting our science up and running a lot quicker than we are right now. So that means that we need 3 types of science, and we actually have the setup done for pretty much all of them. So yellow science is over here. We have all the production we need for the 2 types of science, 2 types of inputs we need. And we're going to put it over here, and as always, we are just going to belt the inputs straight into it. That's the diamonds, and then we can have the titanium crystals over here. Flipping it around for a moment so I can see what I'm doing. There we go. Now, this is probably going to be overkill in terms of how much yellow science we actually need, but hey, I always figure why not. For some reason we actually have crystals being flown in. Oh, that's because this one has drones. Because the drones are being... okay, yeah, that makes sense. Anyway, that's not really a problem. As you can see, the drones are flying back and forth. It's quite a drain on our energy, but the belt will do most of the work as soon as the initial cap is done. As you can see, the drones stop flying, and we will simply have the new production being put straight into the ILS over here. You can actually see it is fully lit up already, so this will be a lot of production going. As you can see, this is not going that fast, but it's a lot faster than the single one we had producing over before, and this will produce all the yellow science that we need for now. Now, the second thing we need is the red science. Sorry, I stopped talking now. Red science. We actually have everything we need for red science over here as well. We have the hydrogen over there. We have more hydrogen than we will ever need. And we have graphite over here as well. And I keep messing those 2 up. I should really stop doing that. Anyway, let's see if we can squeeze that in over here, maybe. Or alternatively, we can actually put it down there because we already have all of the components over there as well. If I flip this around, I think we should be able to make this work. Let's see how close we can get it. There we go. Now this build is a lot smaller. I mainly make it a lot smaller because the production rate is quite quick. But you, of course, feel free to scale it up if you want. You might actually want to scale it up maybe later on in the game, when you need the the red science for the white science. But for now this will be enough. And again, it's not necessarily a goal to kind of race through the science, but we do want it to go a lot faster than it is right now. One thing that I should note is that I do recommend actually powering this and making sure there is vessels in here so you can transport this across planets. Why? No, mainly because it's very cool to use in our next build, which you could do on any planet, but we're going to do it on our 3rd planet because I want to have all the endgame products there, and that includes the science. Because we have 2 more colors of science to go. I am actually out of science facilities. So let's pick some up, because we will need quite a few of them for the next build as well. There they are. 50 should do. And back we go. Faster construction drones is always nice. And as you can see, two nice towers of red research as well. We have the graphite going in. I really don't know why I'm struggling so much with that word. It's not that hard, is it? Anyway. And then we need to build in the hydrogen from over here. Let's make it neat past this one. Apparently I'm trying to go a little faster than I can. Not sure why we have a max building range in this game, to be honest. I can pick stuff up from the other side of the planet, from the Interstellar Logistics Center, but I can't build a belt further than I can see. Anyway, it works. Now, if you do it like this, because now currently I'm belting it out into separate spaces, but it should be prioritizing this belt right now, I think. Is it though? It's trying to split them between the two, basically between the additional I have over here. So what you can actually do to avoid this is just make another belt over here as well. And loop that around. It's not the prettiest, you can just delete this. But I want this buffer in here because I might get to a point where I'm actually producing more hydrogen than I'm consuming with this research. And I don't want anything to back up, so if we do it like this, we're at least sure that we're making use of everything that we can. And we shouldn't run into any backing up issues anytime soon. I also recommend that you set this to remote supply, as well as this one. Why? Because this actually allows you not just to pick up the red research from this, but also the hydrogen and the graphite. So you have two more places where you can pick up the hydrogen. Well, one more place in addition to the oil factory. Okay, so now you can see we are producing yellow research, we're producing the red research, and then all that's left, and I think we have a nice little spot for that over here. It's the blue science. There we go. Isn't this just perfect? I think we should be able to squeeze that in. Might as well just put it in the middle over here. Like so. And since we have a belt of... This is not the coils, we need the coils. As you can see, we're still fully stacked up on this, so we're making more coils than we actually need. Which is always a good thing, because that allows us to do this. And belt that into here directly. And now last but not least, we also need the circuit boards. Multitasking is so hard. And all the way down here. And into this one. And as always, I recommend just belting it in. Why not? Because the drones cost you a lot of energy, so if you do this, it's free of energy. And drones chew that up. And as always, if you reach the point where you have your own Dyson Sphere, your own Dyson Swarm going around, you have all the energy you need. And of course, this is not an issue anymore, but until that point in the game, well, basically if you reach that part of the game, you build your Dyson Sphere, you're done. I save that for near the end of the game, because afterwards it's just about further expanding and kind of setting your own goals. I like doing it like this. Okay, so now we should be getting our blue signs. No? Why not? Did I forget something? Well, obviously I did, because we're not getting any coils. Apparently I didn't set this correctly. There we go. Always check if it's working before you run off. But now it is. Let's put some vessels in there as well. And now we're kind of good to go. We have our initial blue research starting up. Now this is also the point where we replaced most, not everything, but most of what we've built before on this planet. So before we really started scaling up. I've been talking since pretty much the first episode about things that we would be tearing down. This is a good moment to kind of start thinking about tearing things down, cleaning it up, and repurposing all that production to something that you can actually use. So for example, what I mean by that, if we fly back to our, for example, our starter base over here, there's blue research, which is now not really serving any purpose because it's part of the very slow yellow research production over all the way on the other side, which we're not really using. But even an even better example, for example, is our starting base over here. Yes, it's still here, our tiny cute little base, remember, from episode 1, where we're producing blue research, which we're actually not using anywhere. It's not really in the way, it's not really a huge amount of deposits still left, but we might as well take it down at this point. But before we start taking anything down, I'll just do that in one clean go. But before that, there's one more thing I want to show you in this episode, and yeah, I will need to fly to the other planet, so I will skip that and we'll meet back on planet number 1. And welcome to our nice little red planet. And can we just all stand here for a moment and appreciate how incredibly beautiful this planet is. It almost, and I emphasize almost, wants me to not build on this planet. It's just the place where I could go and just chill out, walk around for a while, have my energy batteries be drained, and then get stuck on this planet forever. But yeah, just look at it. It's just so beautiful. Keep in mind though that every beauty can have its dark side, and the same holds for this planet. Quite so literally in this case, because our planet is tightly locked, as we have seen in the previous episodes, which means that this side is always facing the sun, and the other side is always facing the darkness, or facing away from the sun, so it's permanent night there. Now, we just researched our mass construction level 4, which is, it means we can now make huge blueprints, up to 3,000 facilities. Not as big as you might think, but it will get us a long way. And we do actually need that blueprint to make our next build, or we need that blueprint level, I should say, to make that build. But before we do that, we'll need to build some power, which I will do in a moment. Just one more thing I want to mention about this planet. A lot of the planets usually have one side where you have fairly little resources, so that gives you a lot of space to build. And then one more side that gives you a lot of resources, and therefore it can be a bit more complicated to build. Now in our case, actually it turns out that all the resources are on the dark side of the planet, while all the building area, or at least a lot of it, is on the light side of the planet. In my specific case, I will maybe not like plaster this completely full with solar panels as I would normally do, because building in the light area is probably going to be a lot more entertaining for you to look at than me walking around in the dark. So if you're wondering, hey TDA, why are you not using the dark area more, or using at least the light area for your solar panels and things like that, or at least why are you not using that more? It's basically for your convenience, but it does make a lot of sense if you find a planet like this, just to plaster the light side with full solar panels and make big use of that. For this planet specifically, we don't actually need to do that, because we also happen to have a 150% wind energy ratio. So that means that turbines are going to be producing at 150% of their normal rate. So that means for every 2 turbines we build, we get the same output as 3 turbines on the other planets. So yeah, that's going to be very nice and convenient. I will start building our power now, and then we can get on with our last build of this episode. Alright, there we go. I finished almost 3 rings around the planet. As you can see, I ran out of solar panels just before I finished the 3rd ring. But we're pretty much done. They are connected the 3 rings with some turbine energy there. Actually, the last few solar panels are arriving just now. I just built a random ILS over here to request some basic materials. That's something you can easily do now once you've set up some of the interplanetary stuff like we did. We can't actually request all our buildings yet, so that is something we'll have to focus on in one of the next few episodes, so that we can build whatever we want, wherever we want. But for now, this will do. The solar panels and turbines, because they're super effective, are almost giving us 500 megawatts of power, which I believe is even more than we have on our starting planet altogether. And that's with the last solar panels not being finished, which of course we will do, but I'll do that off screen. Now, the build we want to finish up on this episode is actually going to be a polar build is the word I was looking for. So we'll be placing this somewhere around the polar and the poles, and I think we'll pick. Let's see. Actually, there's some titanium on this side of the planet, so let's fly to the other pole and build it there. Remember, if you go into flight mode and you actually fly just a little bit above where you normally would start, so around the edge of space, basically. Not sure what this is doing here. I placed this probably with the intent of doing something with it, but I forgot what. Then you can fly around the planet a little bit faster, so you don't need to go at the snail pace. Now, the science dome, as I call it, is a polar build, which means we are placing it around the pole. As you can see, the blueprints can kind of spaz out when you do that. Basically, this is the game trying to figure out what it is you actually want to build. But you should place it in such a position that it's all blue, and it will kind of snap together, and then you can place it. There's one ILS in there that you can place in the direction that you prefer. It doesn't really matter, to be honest, where you put it, but you have to kind of fiddle around with your mouse. I like positioning it on one of the main lines. As you can see, there's kind of an X on our screen going from the pole. These are the uninterrupted lines that go from pole to pole. You don't need to put the ILS on one of those. I just like doing so. Okay. And we'll start building. And as you can see, this is actually going to be a build that's a circle. We have one ILS requesting science, and then we have 5 circles around science centers that we will be feeding that science into. Now, this is just a single story of science facilities. You can, of course, stack that up as high as you want. Initially, you don't really need to stack it up. In fact, initially, you don't even need the 4th and 5th line of science, but we will be focusing on building the next 2 science types over the next few episodes, and we'll need to feed it all into the same place, and that might as well be this nice little science facility we have over here. Now, we do have science incoming already, so let's finish building this and let's see how it looks. And there we go. It's all finished. The science has arrived, and as you can see, we now have 3 beautiful circles of science moving around. They're actually actively moving because they're being fed in and out of the ILS. We haven't powered it up yet, and it will look even better once we do, so let's do that. And as you will see, the sign starts up. Let me put it into full focus mode, and this just looks pretty, doesn't it? Now, of course, it will depend a little bit on what you're researching, how this looks, etc. But I think it looks really nice with the 3 circles moving in opposite directions, alternating. And yeah, I can look at this all day, to be honest. It's going to look even better when we have the next 2 levels of science going in here, but for now, this will do. And once we switch back, you can see the research speed is going at an incredible rate now. Of course, we are transporting research between planets, so we are now just using our buffer, so we will slow down a little bit in terms of how much we're actually researching and producing. but this will be at several times the speed that we were moving before. We're researching some upgrades, and afterwards we'll start researching the next few buildings that we want to be doing and building, and we'll be focusing on that in the next episode. I hope you like this build as much as I do. Of course, the blueprint will be in the links down below, so make sure you pick this up and feel free to use this. The one thing I haven't mentioned about this blueprint yet is it leaves this open area in the middle. You can use that later on, or for example solar energy, things like that. It's a nice open area that you can use for something like that, for example receiving power, or maybe even shooting out rockets and to build your Dyson Sphere, things like that. It's a nice little open area to use that for. Okay, so I hope you like this. If you do, please feel free to leave a comment and subscribe if you like this series, and I will see you in the next one.